In this lesson, I want to talk about how we can actually define a function in Python. So in the last lesson, we kind of looked at this example of a function as this sort of black box. It takes in some arguments and it produces an output. So how can we actually write a function in Python? And we're going to be learning how to write very basic functions right off the rip. So let's look at some syntax. So the first part of defining a function in Python is the def keyword. And def tells Python that we are creating a new function. Without this, Python won't know what you're talking about, so it's important to add this keyword. The next important part of writing a function is the actual name of the function. So in this case, my function is the name of the function we're defining. And it's important to add these parentheses because if this function were to take in any arguments, which we'll talk about later, they would be specified here. And then lastly, the function body is where the actual function itself is defined. So then how do we call this function now that we've created it? Granted, we haven't actually defined the body of the function, so this function doesn't actually do anything, but let's look at how we can call this. So think back to when we were learning about print. How did we call the print function? Well, we simply typed the name of the function, open parenthesis, the object we want to print, and a closing parenthesis, and this would print out hello to the screen. And the same goes for this function we just defined. We have the function name my function, and in this case the function doesn't take any arguments, so we won't pass anything, and we've just called this function. Let's take a look at this in the editor. Alright, so I've got my lesson1.python file set up in my unit 3 folder. Now we can get started. So let's write a function. So the first part is obviously the def keyword. This tells Python we're creating a new function. The next part is to actually name the function. So I'll just call this print my name. Now this is good convention to get into. Whenever you're naming your methods, you should use what's called camel casing. Same thing goes for variable names. You should have the first letter of the first word lowercased, and the subsequent words you should have the first letter capitalized. So in this case, we're also not passing in any arguments, so you can leave these parentheses here. You just don't have to add anything in them. And then just add a colon. Here's where we can actually define our function body. So let's just simply say print my name is Luigi. We can save this, and let's go ahead and try and run this. You'll notice nothing outputs. That's because we haven't actually called this function, so we can simply call the function print my name, and we can rerun this, and you'll notice it says my name is Luigi. So that's as far as we're going to explore functions in this particular lesson. We're going to get more in-depth as we proceed throughout this unit.